Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, the place where we not only talk about what's going on in the gun world, but also how we're going to fix it together. And today, for this episode, I'm going to give you some bad news that just happened in Washington State, but I'm also going to show you where it's leading, because this is going to backfire royally on the gun controllers in states all across this nation that continue to pursue this quest. Everything will be linked in the description box below, and I cannot wait to hear what you guys think about this one down there in the comments, and make sure you send this one out so we get a lot of information spread as far as possible. And if you are new or you're a returning viewer, please consider hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and making sure you turn the notification bell on. We need as many people as we can to get into the fold to help spread this information and pass the blessing of the Second Amendment along to the next generation. And thank you so much in advance for that consideration. But my brothers and sisters, we have got to dive into this because Washington State has just passed an assault weapons ban. Now, this might sound kind of like Groundhog's Day because we've seen this in a bunch of other places this year. Oregon, we've seen it in Illinois, we've seen some other things go on in New Jersey, we've seen things in New York, we've seen some things in Connecticut, we've seen it all over the place in the deep blue bastions. But the big story here is not what these individual states are doing on their virtue signal quest. The big story is where this is going to land them, because the more attention that they draw to these assault weapon bans, not only will they be stymied in the courts initially, they're also begging the attention of the Supreme Court. And even the SVP head of legal for NSSF believes that the assault weapons bans will be in front of the Supreme Court within 3 to 4 years, maybe sooner if they keep this up. Enough of the setup, let's get into this. Let me show you what they're doing and let me show you the next steps, because this is sounding familiar. Semi-automatic rifle ban passes Washington State Legislature. Now, this came out today, and Inslee's going to sign it. It's going to be a thing. Of course it is. It's not a surprise. He's been advocating for it. He believes the fact that ARs exist is the big problem in the entire United States, even though they don't accommodate for any type of statistical crime on the FBI's reporting. But that doesn't matter. You actually have more crime and violence from hands, fists, feet, knives, and bludgeon objects and hammers than you do from any type of rifle. But let's not let facts get in the way of virtue signal. Let's continue. Bellingham, Washington, AP. A ban of dozens of semi-automatic rifles cleared the Washington State Legislature on Wednesday, and the governor is expected to sign it into law. Now, of course he is. But listen to this little nuance at the end of this paragraph. The Washington law would block the sale, distribution, manufacture, and importation of more than 50 gun models, including AR-15s, AK-47s, and similar style rifles. These guns fire one bullet per trigger pull and automatically reload for a subsequent shot, which, by the way, is the exact same thing that all pistols do outside of revolvers. Anything semi-automatic falls in this category. Just saying, if you think they're not going to go after pistols next, you be mistaken. Let's continue. Some exemptions are included for sales to law enforcement agencies and the military in Washington. The measure does not bar the possession of the weapons by people who already have them. That part right there. If your entire point is that ARs are the bane of all existence, they are the problem in our United States, this is something that must be rectified. Why would you pass a bill that says, but the ones that are already in existence are perfectly fine? So you're suggesting that any and all crime is created by things that are produced in the future from now forward, not existing. Now, this is not my standpoint, this is theirs. Their whole point here is these exist, therefore crime exists. Well, if these exist, therefore crime exists, why would you not ban the thing that you're saying is the main problem? Only the things in the future. Again, not my perspective, this is what they're saying. There is a tremendous gap in logic, because it doesn't make sense. This is where the virtue signal comes in. The other thing that they're not going to say out loud to the gun control side, because they're going to say we banned assault weapons, even though the ones that are already in existence, according to them, stay there, no problem. Doesn't that kind of fly in the face of the entire point? The reason that they don't do it is because if they start confiscating things, they will get immediately stayed, because that is dramatically unconstitutional. In fact, this is already unconstitutional, which gets to the point that I'm going to come into next. We already saw Oregon put out Measure 114, halted in the courts. Illinois, assault weapons ban, halted in the courts. New Jersey, new concealed carry law, halted in the courts. New York, pending litigation in the courts. Connecticut, going to be stopped in the courts. Literally everything that they put forward this year as their virtue signal pushback on the Bruin decision has been stymied because it's all unconstitutional. That hasn't stopped Washington State from doing the exact same thing that Illinois just did. They're going to be stymied in the courts, in the lower courts. And then they're going to go to the big boy courts where the Supreme Court's going to make a ruling. And then we'll see how they're going. But let's continue. Inslee said lives will be saved because of the semi-automatic rifle ban and 2 other measures approved by the legislature this session. One that introduced a 10-day waiting period for gun purchases, and another to hold gun makers liable for negligent sales. So they're going to... It's a hive mind. They're doing the same thing across the board. They just did this in Colorado where they said blame the manufacturers and blame the salespeople. Don't blame the actual perpetrators of crime. They're going down this entire road, and then they say you have to have a mandatory 10-day waiting period. Colorado just did a 3-day waiting period. All the blue bastion states, there's about 9 of them, are going down this primrose path of ban everything because the problem is clearly the object. Now, the big deal here is a majority of the landmass in the United States is not following this path. In fact, we just got 27 states to be constitutional carry. So while the media is glorifying and magnifying this, on a macro scale, the momentum is absolutely shifting in the favor of gun rights versus gun control. These guys are just banging the drum pretty loud. But let's continue, because this part is right in line with Measure 114 and everything we just talked about in Oregon. Republican state lawmakers opposed the ban, with some contending school shootings should be addressed by remodeling buildings to make them less appealing as targets, and others saying it infringes on people's right to defend themselves. Well, the last part, it does infringe upon people's rights to defend themselves. Remodeling buildings, I can't even get into that right now. Quote, HB 1240 clearly violates our state and federal constitutions, which is why it will end up in the courts immediately, Senator Linda Wilson of Vancouver said. Completely correct. It's going to end up in the courts. They're doing this because they want to score virtue signal points in an electoral season. This is not something that's going to have any outcome in a positive manner whatsoever, as they are promising. Existing rifles. Nah, you can keep them. I thought that was the problem. It was, but it's not anymore. 10-day waiting periods, unconstitutional. Then you have to do suing the gun manufacturers and gun shops, unconstitutional. That's going after the logistics and the ecosystem of the firearm industry. And then you got to follow the exact same path of military and police get special treatment, just like in Illinois. This is going to be struck down the same way, and pretty soon the Supreme Court is going to be forced to act. Got one more thing for you, which kind of buttresses the point of it's the blue states doing this, not the rest of us. 9 states, including California, New York, and Massachusetts, along with the District of Columbia, have already passed similar bans, and the laws have been upheld as constitutional by the courts, according to Washington's Attorney General Bob Ferguson. That's the thing that they're not telling you. Yeah, it might be held up as constitutional in the circuit courts and the state level courts, which are put in place on a blue bastion, which are a joke. They aren't constitutional. They're completely political. But when you get up a little bit higher, if the Supreme Court decides to take this case up, they're going to get smoked, and they know it. And that's why we put this video together. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will see you on the next one. I'm Braden. See you later.